And just like that, Rhea Ripley, after how many was it? 380 days.
I think
WrestleMania.
I think it was exactly 380 days.
Yep, I will look this up.
I think it was 80. I think that's what they said on the broadcast.
She had the same amount of days as when somebody else had to relinquish the title. I think I can't remember exactly who it was, but unfortunately, Mami is going to be on the sideline for a little bit. Welcome back. Everything is Pro Wrestling Podcast. Mike D, Flanny, Flanabam in the building. 2-camera shot. Who knows? Maybe we'll get a whole podcast out of it this time.
We're getting there,
It
folks.
depends on how our camera wants to work. We got new lighting, new setup, studio really coming together. I think it's kind of crazy how now this is our 6th episode. 7th?
I've lost the plot at this point.
Lost the plot.
I think supposed to be 7th, but
Yeah,
actually
well, that's
6th.
true.
Thank you. Another reminder of how bad I fucked up.
Also, backtrack 380. She was tied with Bayley's second reign for the longest reigning women's world champion.
Right, yes. So she would have one more day away from
She should have dropped it on a house show. Damn
right?
Yeah, shout out to
Or have her do it on
Joe.
SmackDown.
Yeah. It was a sad way to start. When the rumors started going around the interwebs that day on Monday, usually when there's smoke, there's fire, right? That's one of our favorite things to say here.
Especially these days.
She had been kind of nursing an injury a little bit prior to Mania. The speculation then became, okay, well, did it happen at Mania and they used the live thing as like a write her off type of situation? Or was it something that actually happened in that attack? I saw something very funny on the internet that is so true. It's like they'll do these, crazy spots, take these crazy bumps during a match.
They're fine.
But then it takes some silly backstage
hip toss
into the wall to dislocate your shoulder. So now that's it. Rhea had to relinquish the title, and Liv is on her revenge tour.
Yeah. I will say, to be fair, though, about the wall spot, a wall is a lot less giving than a ring or even like a table or a ladder.
True.
Like,
if it's a real wall, not a gimmick wall.
Exactly. Yeah. That wall is not actually moving at all.
Yeah, I know that's true, and you're almost not bracing yourself properly,
right? Yeah,
because you figure when you're setting yourself for a massive spot, your body is prepping to do that. So maybe she just got caught off guard and the timing of being launched into the wall. But what do you guys think? Do you think there was a little bit of a shoot in that promo she cut on Monday night? You think there was some actual? I don't think. I think it's been confirmed. There's no heat with Liv backstage.
Yeah, I'm afraid it was just a freak.
Just a freak thing, but. You have to really feel for Rhea because her momentum was just ridiculous right now.
Oh yeah,
and, this is a major setback.
I mean, she was arguably the hottest thing in the company.
Period.
Bare minimum, second hottest thing in the company behind Cody.
Right.
And you could make an argument she may have even been hotter than Cody.
Yeah, and if you're saying in the company, you're saying in professional wrestling right now.
Pretty much,
because
pretty much.
I don't think, and it's not always the case, but I think right now where the WWE is and what they're doing, if you're the top star there, you're the top star.
Yeah.
So, and we talked about it that day, I think arguably the biggest, best performer, most dominant that we've seen in a very long time. So sad to see go. And I even thought too, I was like, maybe it happened before Mania.
Yeah.
And she was just tough enough to say, no, I'm going to have this Mania moment.
Like Seth kind of.
We can kind of patch you together, get you through that match, and then go from there, and then obviously figure out a way to write her off. But no, it was sad. I think in her promo, you could see, she had a couple little slips at the beginning, just off of sheer emotion. You could tell it really was hurting her and meant a lot to her. And I think that's where a lot of maybe some of the folks and some of the tweets I saw about people thinking like, oh, is there real smoke there because of how passionate Rhea was in delivering the promo? But I think she leaned into it well. I think when you're giving those sorts of promos, when it is something real, lean into it. That's what we want to see. We know what it is. It's a real thing. Like you mentioned, Mike, the kind of the scuttlebutt was out there all day. It was building. So when everyone knew when that music hit, we knew what it was going to be. She didn't have to say a word. So I love the emotion. I love how they tied it in with Liv coming out and actually feeding into it and really trying to, Rhea get to her and Liv just hamming it up. I think Liv's been awesome since she come back.
Definitely.
I think she's handled everything great with the tour. It's sad because these things are unfortunate, and we know a lot of time wrestlers will get heat for things that they didn't do. So it's good to hear that hopefully isn't happening in the background because accidents happen. It's just a part of the business. This is not, this isn't play fighting, folks. This is real.
It's not ballet, as they classically say.
Yeah,
exactly. And Liv, it just the storyline kind of works out because of the injuries with flip flop.
Exactly.
Last year. So
I mean. They have to put the title on Liv now, right? She has to be the one that wins the vacant title.
I don't know.
I think that makes the most sense.
And then build towards her Rhea's return.
Rhea comes back.
Especially if it's going to be a, say, 2 to 3 month layoff.
Right.
Makes total sense. You can give it a live. She can get a nice, or similar maybe to I think what we're thinking we might be seeing with Priest right now.
Right.
Where he's going to have it for maybe a couple PLEs, 1 or 2 PLEs, see him on TV and then drop it. I can see them doing that with live. But also I think there's a few different ways they can go. There's a few different folks they can put it on if they want to get creative. They haven't announced yet what the plan is for it. Have
They said they're going to do a title match this coming Monday.
Okay. And they
A
have
title match, or is it like
is this going to start in the
number one
tournament?
title?
No.
Yeah.
From what they
straight
said,
to it.
what they said on Raw at least was title match. Like they're going
Okay.
to crown the new champion this coming Monday.
So I'm sure maybe SmackDown will find out who those folks are going to be because they
That'd
didn't
be
announce.
they didn't announce who's going to be in it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So that
I mean,
would be my guess. That's
And
what
that
they're
makes
gonna
me
do,
think
but-
too that behind the scenes they probably haven't figured it out yet.
That's
They're still trying to
possible.
figure out, okay, what do we want to do as opposed to saying this is the match. Let's think about it and really work through
Or
our
they
options.
may just not have thought of who they want to put in that match. Like they may be thinking, okay, Liv's gonna just an example.
yes.
They're gonna
Who's
think
she gonna
Liv's
go-
gonna
who's-
win.
yeah, who should
who
go
else
around?
do we want to put in it to make look
Yep.
that feels credible?
right.
Because unfortunately, you can't just put anybody in it. To be fair,
No.
Maybe, I mean, the other thing too is the Judgment Day. Like what happens with the Judgment
I know.
Day now? Because obviously Damian Priest, he's got the World Heavyweight title. They lost the tag team titles. You know, Dominic kind of had his thing where he's kind of branching off a little bit.
Right.
He is very much like, you know, when you want to think of who's going to become the leader, right? Damian Priest, we've seen kind of a hothead.
Right.
Wouldn't be necessarily the best leader
Yep.
because he kind of acts on emotion.
Right.
And he's dealing with now being the champion. Finn Balor doesn't really seem like he, you know, we're
He's
talking
kind of
in
been
kayfabe
the
term.
leader in the beginning
Right.
of the iteration when he took over for Edge, but
he was the first, like, technically second leader.
Yes.
Then he got replaced.
and I
Rhea.
think it was an organic kind of replacement that
Right.
it's okay, well, Mami's so hot, Priest
Yeah.
is so hot. It
In
makes
many
sense
ways.
to kind of, and kudos,
Yes.
yeah, it's in every way.
Bonk.
And kudos to Finn for rolling with that and not
Yeah.
letting it impact
Yeah,
how well
Finn's a
he
pro.
produced in there.
Yeah, I just like, for me, I think that this kind of begins the disbandment,
Yeah.
if you will,
Yeah.
of the Judgment Day as we know it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
there's gonna be. I think it's not gonna happen overnight. They're gonna build towards it. There's gonna be some, beef in the back. You'll show some backstage things where, there's some riffs, right? The camera lingers on one person, like,
Right.
Yep.
You're like thinking, like, what is that all about? Because Damian's gonna be a busy guy. We think
Yeah.
that they have big plans for him
Yeah.
this summer.
Yeah.
And who knows? Who knows where they go with Finn? Maybe this is Finn's chance to break off and get back into
get back into a
maybe
title hunt.
maybe into an IC title hunt.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe they're setting it up for him to go eventually fight Priest.
I
would
would be
love
That's a
that.
opposed to that.
possibility too.
He's a
That'd
main
be a-
event guy. He's had
Yeah.
the
Finn
strap
Balor-
before. Finn can do it all.
And he's kind of been screwed in his career.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
If you think about
With
it.
injuries,
Absolutely.
timing.
Obviously, being the first ever Universal Champion and being injured, and relinquishing it with the next
very
night.
next day.
The
right?
next
Yep.
because he got
On Raw.
injured in the match where
Yep.
he won it.
So it's very possible that they go that way. And, it's funny how the two biggest factions that you have are essentially in limbo right now between the Bloodline
Yep.
and Judgment
yeah,
Day.
one more so than the other.
Right.
It feels like.
Yeah.
And I think
You got to be kidding me. All right, 0 for 1. Live
think-
reaction.
I think Finn versus Priest could be a solid SummerSlam match.
Oh, I would love
Oh,
that.
definitely.
And remember too, a year ago at this time, there was that rift between the two of them.
Right.
Specifically, one
Right.
Damian was taking that mantle as kind of
Yeah.
the leader. Finn was there. Was some stuff that we saw play out backstage on the ramp, in the ring. So it's an easy way to flip and go right back to that.
All the stuff that they were doing with when Priest first won the briefcase and
Yep.
like teasing cash-ins while Balor was like jealous because he's like, well, I'm fighting for the title right
Yep.
now.
Right.
You could easily go back to that type of a thing.
Definitely. So, yeah, we're not necessarily concerned about the people involved in Judgment Day, but Judgment Day itself,
Yeah.
without Rhea, it almost kind of loses its
yeah, it
luster,
feels-
too, you know?
It does. It feels
It
so
feels
different.
weaker. But I also think they were building to this
Yes,
anyway.
yeah,
I
I
just
think
think
Mania-
it may
the way
now
Ma-
be-
yes, the way
it may
Mania
now
played
just
out-
be
Yeah,
more
they got accelerated.
fast-paced to it.
Yeah, because we talked about that with Priest winning, and then Rhea's got it. So we had talked about maybe this was the dismantle at Mania. It could have played out
Right.
that way. So I think they probably were ready for this. I don't know if this was the time they wanted to pull the trigger on it, or they may have to speed it up in a sense. But I think we all knew it was kind of coming. There was
Yeah.
going to be a different iteration of Judgment Day this summer.
Yeah, for sure. And, again, we don't know exactly how long Rhea is going to be
Yeah.
out, but it's going to be at least a few months. So it could be SummerSlam. It could be later in the year.
Right.
Obviously, with how much of a star she is, this is not something they're going to want to rush her back
Yep.
for. Also kind of shitty for like Becky, who was probably expecting to have some time off.
Yeah.
They might need her back sooner
Yep.
rather than later just to boost that main event.
Maybe I don't know. Well, especially with the draft coming up, though, they can maybe just call
Mix
up
some
a few
stuff around,
more
yes.
NXT stars
And or
maybe
shuffle the deck a little bit. You can take maybe, I know we got like Bianca, Naomi, and Jade. I know that that big three is something they probably wanted to keep together. You
Right.
could potentially take one of them. Bianca probably makes the most sense in terms of being ready for the title hunt, but you could also maneuver some of them around. Like
Also,
you mentioned, NXT talent.
Right.
Nia Jax, I think, is.
Yeah.
Oh,
is
yeah.
Nia Jax, honestly, I could see her being the
I could
next
see
champion.
her. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like I could see it be her and Liv and going either way.
Right.
Really.
I could
Right.
see, yeah.
You know, maybe her and Liv kind of have a little feud here
Yep.
for a little bit because Nia they've been building up for months now. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like her
And
return.
kudos to her. She's looked good.
She
We've
looks
talked
great.
about how much better she's
Yes.
looked this time around.
I really
And-
liked her promo on Raw.
Yeah, I thought that was
really
good
well
the other
done.
day. Even
Oh,
the camera
definitely.
angles, what
Yeah.
they've done just makes her look so big and so menacing.
Yeah.
They've done a really
Yeah.
good job with
And
that.
I love the people online that were kind of like, wow, she looks so beautiful now. Like she was
She's
a model.
always been beautiful.
She's a
Yeah.
beautiful.
Her problem
she's a
was
beautiful
never
woman.
how good she looked.
No.
It was just the in-ring work and her promos,
Right.
which to her credit, she's worked at and worked at and worked
Yeah.
at.
Yeah, we should clarify. When we say she looks good now, we don't mean
Yeah,
physically.
no,
we
she's
mean
always been
in-ring
beautiful.
No,
look.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
No, I wasn't clarifying your
No, no, I know,
stance.
I'm
I
just
just had
saying-
seen it
Yeah.
online.
I'm just saying to clarify everything
Yeah,
in
yeah.
general.
The once a quarter horny pod we got out the
Yes.
way.
Right.
So
Right, yeah.
yeah, we're not on that
Also,
time yet.
if you heard the horny pod, you know we find all of them.
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
We're not picky. It sounds like.
Nope. The men too. Men
Absolutely.
are beautiful.
Respectfully,
Yep.
respectfully horny.
Yep.
I think
Right.
that's okay.
Yeah,
I think that's fine.
there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with
Nothing wrong with being a little
respectful
respectful horniness. Listen, there's a game happening that I'm watching. I'm very invested in on the TV here, and it's
okay.
it's getting a little nerve wracking for me. We're not going to go into what it is. Just know that I'm in a tizzy right now.
Mike loves his pickleball.
Yeah,
I mean-
it's pickleball.
Let's
Exactly.
be real. If you know Mike, you more than likely already know what it is.
Right. It's probably a sport where that involves feet.
As opposed to the ones that don't involve you.
Kicking a ball.
No, I know.
Kicking a ball.
I know.
Yeah. I think that's
Just the way you said that, like
I
the
know.
ones where they don't
That's
use
true.
their feet at all.
yeah.
I
I have so many jokes.
Yeah.
that I'm
I
not,
was gonna say, I didn't wanna go there.
Yeah,
It was gonna
I have
be-
so
yeah.
many jokes that I'm not going to go to. So that was the big kind of bombshell that was dropped on to start Monday Night Raw on Monday, and then of course Cody comes out. I think Cody coming out was interesting. I think this is their obvious way of being like, hey, he's a champion now. He talked about being, taking it to every city,
Yep.
but essentially didn't really serve a purpose.
No.
I think that was kind of like, hey, here he is. Like, here, let's parade him out type of thing.
It felt, based on what he said and some of the stuff I've read online, it almost felt like a goodbye to Raw.
It did
promo.
feel that way.
Because he
Yeah.
did mention the
He
draft
did mention
as well.
that.
Yep.
And
But
he
also,
mentioned,
he's
like, hey,
the
thank you to Adam
WWE champion,
Pearce.
which has mostly
Yep.
been exclusively SmackDown.
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes to where SmackDown is. And
Yeah,
again, we
right.
talked about it. I know we had Kaz on. He mentioned, what about Monday? A lot of that is really flipped. Kudos to the Bloodline.
Yeah.
They are the folks who did it to where now the A show in so many ways is SmackDown.
Right.
And I didn't think they'd move Cody. I thought they'd keep him on Raw and just build around him there. But I could see him going to SmackDown.
It's possible post draft they still keep him on Raw
Yeah.
and just put
Yep.
Priest on SmackDown. That could also be what happens once the draft comes
I've
around.
always wondered. I'm curious what you guys think because I know this was some talk, and I forget if they've done this iteration before when they've done draft where the champ can go wherever. Have they done that before? I know it's been talked about before. Like if you're a champ, you have the ability to go to any show because you have the belt. I know it's different now with the multiple belts,
Right.
But I always wondered if that's something they should go back to. In some ways, I like that. I think
Yeah.
obviously now it's difficult with the two belts, but I like the fact that I got the belt. I can go wherever I want. I can do whatever I want.
I think, the Rumble, too, being able to choose which champion you go after.
Right. Or even
regardless.
Money in the Bank, you can
Yeah.
choose what champion
Money
you
in the
cash in
Bank.
on.
Same.
So I think that's their way of keeping that open a little bit. But, like, let's say a Raw superstar wins the WWE Championship. What is it officially called now? It's WWE Championship.
The undisputed WWE Championship.
And-
They've officially allegedly dropped Universal.
Universal.
I'm glad they dropped Universal.
Same.
I'm glad they kept Undisputed because Samantha Irvin's Undisputed.
Yeah.
It's just
Her
I mean,
Undisputed-
anything she does, but the Undisputed is just, it comes from the belly.
Her undisputed.
Turn us off.
We are no
is-
longer watching
No longer-
the sport that needs feet, folks.
Her
Damn
undisputed
it.
is great.
I think our lighting just
Yeah,
changed
lighting
too.
did turn off, though. That's all right. It's not offering, but the phone is still recording, so it's all that
This is a
matters.
better feel of this is a better look at how you feel.
Right, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. It
Yeah.
encapsulates Mike's soul at the moment.
Yeah, which is just dead.
I do like Samantha's Undisputed. I don't fully like the name just because you have
Yeah.
a world heavyweight. It's technically is disputed.
Yep.
Like you have another champion, so are you the undisputed champion at this point?
Exactly.
It should, to me, it should just be the WWE champ. But yeah,
Yep.
the way Samantha delivers that is phenomenal Because like you guys both said, everything she does is phenomenal.
It's so good, so good. And we've talked about her enough. I think we talked about it last week. We talked about the Michael Buffer shout out.
Yep.
Even Logan Paul. So I don't know if you all saw. She had made a comment about Logan Paul reacting to Cena coming on, all that. It was like an overacting, which was funny because and he made a comment. I think on his podcast. I do not listen to his podcast, but I saw a clip where he was like, "I thought that was awesome that she leaned into that because obviously she was getting shit about her call." And leaning, and he was like, "She's the best. She's just so good at what she does. There's really nobody on that level, and she's again strapped the rocket to her. She's going to the moon. Whatever she wants to do, she can do it."
Yeah. In full disclosure, I didn't get a chance to watch SmackDown this past week. Every time I try to sit down to watch it, I have it recorded. I wasn't able to get to it, but before we started recording, you guys had a few questions about his promo from SmackDown.
So both, to me at least, both SmackDown and even this week on Raw, his promos have been very lackluster. Like, it feels like he's just going through the motions with his promos. And part of me thinks it's because he doesn't have a challenge. Like, he doesn't know who his next challenge is going to be. And once he gets that, maybe his promos will start. Once he has somebody to direct his promos towards, they'll start getting back to the way they were before. But I wasn't a huge fan of the past two promos he did.
I haven't been either. And I hope they get to the point of finding his opponent who's next, because what I'm worried about is...
We'll find out on SmackDown.
Okay, perfect. What I'm worried about is the folks in the IWC who never wanted Cody to get the belt.
Right.
And said, okay, well, the story's going to end, and then what?
Right.
And folks were like, what does he do next? Where does he go? Who builds him up? He's only doing this because he's getting the rub of The Rock and Roman, etc. I don't want that chatter to get louder because I don't think that's necessarily the case.
No.
I'm super excited for this title run.
Same.
But I think naturally a lot of folks are going to gravitate towards that if these promos feel stale or if there isn't the right opponent. And that's not fair to him, and I don't think that would be good for the business either.
Same.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, too, is it's... they're being very careful with not overexposing him. Yeah. So maybe if
they've had him do essentially two.
I'm talking about like length of his promos. Because the lead up to Mania, the promos were so. They were 30, 40 minutes sometimes. Yep. The Rock to blame for most of that.
Almost all of it.
Brian words.
But Cody was in the ring, and you're already starting to see the chatter of like, is the WWE Universe turning on Cody Rhodes? And it's like. And then he tweets, I don't know which interview it was from, but he talks about how he would have been a great Paul Heyman guy.
Yeah.
So they're setting up a lot of things. To eventually...
Well, you haven't seen SmackDown yet, but it feels like Paul Heyman might actually be in the midst of a face turn.
Yes. Yeah, Paul.
That's interesting.
Paul's got some bigger problems to deal with in terms of what's next for him and just his overall safety.
Right.
Okay, all right. But you want to fill me in a little bit on that?
It almost feels like... We put him in the Hall of Fame. People loved his Hall of Fame speech. People are cheering him. Now let's make him an actual face.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. What other heel, not even like superstar, but manager comes out and as he's introducing himself, the whole crowd recites it with him. So he's kind of a tweener. He's He's 100%. Like one of those heel managers 100%. That you obviously know the intention is for him to be a heel. He's the wise man for the biggest heel in the company, allegedly. But the crowd loves him because he's so good.
Yeah, look at Heenan during his. It's no different. Yes. Everybody loves Heenan. Whose side is he on?
Right. To me, Heyman almost, maybe this is a bit of a stretch, but it's the best comparison I can think of in my head. Heyman almost feels lately like a manager version of Austin.
Okay.
Like he never, like Austin, if you look, never actually changed the way his character was. He just got cheered.
Exactly.
Like he always kind of still had like the heel tendencies, but he got cheered. And Heyman now, the past few months to even years, has felt that same way.
Yeah.
But I will say after SmackDown, it does feel like an almost genuine face turn is coming.
It's going to be interesting. Do you want to kick us off in terms of that? The way SmackDown ended Friday.
Right. So this was the actual end, right?
Man.
Where they're in. It was the in-ring part.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So they're in the ring.
Paul Solo and
Jimmy. Paul's giving a promo about accountability and how the Bloodline accepts accountability.
This is on behalf of the tribal chief, who's not in attendance, but essentially these are his words, obviously. Yes.
And then Solo Sikoa attacks.
The camera angle on that.
That was so good. And the hug.
We haven't said enough. Well, we've said it, but it can't be said enough. The camera angles are
we're going to get to that.
Yeah,
we're going to get to that because I got a lot to say about that. Yeah.
Bravo, kudos, the way they leaned into it. Obviously, it was a tight shot of Heyman, and then you just slowly start to see the shadow creeping in the shot, which ends up in you see Heyman's face just completely change, turns even whiter than he is, and then Solo is right at his shoulder.
Yeah. He's like, right behind him, just kind of glaring at him, almost very intimidating, and they made Solo look like the badass that he absolutely should be.
That's another thing. They have booked Solo to absolute perfection since he joined. From his first run-in last year at Mania, this entire year, they have booked him to perfection. The stuff he's done with Cena, he hasn't missed a beat. Kudos to him. I think this Friday is probably some of the most we've heard him talk on SmackDown. And I think he absolutely nailed it. But it was insane the way it unfolded.
So what's next for Jimmy? I mean, is this like he's going to have a feud with the Bloodline now? Like, is he because he obviously the main event Jay, we know their intentions. He has this heavyweight championship match coming up at Backlash. Jimmy's kind of was riding the coattails a little bit of the Bloodline and that whole storyline because he didn't transition to the Solo, no pun intended, as easy as his brother did.
Yes.
So now it's going to be interesting to see. I'm sure now he'll probably feud with Solo a little bit, and they'll have the inner squad beef for a while. But what's the payoff there? Because it's obvious that Solo is being built up to be this monster for years now, and he's going to be the guy I think that eventually gets the push before Jimmy does.
Oh yeah,
he is the heir. Yeah. So I think, and I think what Jay's promo Monday.
Yes.
Jay's promo Monday, I think, for me, cemented what we've been seeing and building in terms of where we're going to see them, and I think ultimately a reuniting of the two of them sooner rather than later. And I think just a little bit of context for those who missed Friday. So Solo, on the shoulder of Paul Heyman, takes the mic and says, okay, Paul, if we're going to talk about accountability, we need to talk about change. We need to talk about really being accountable.
Right. Wins and losses matter.
Yes.
Essentially is what he says.
And then he locks eyes with, he essentially moves Paul out of the way, locks eyes with Jimmy, walks over. Jimmy's like, what are you looking at me for? Like, I'm your brother.
Jimmy's expression in that was incredible.
His whole completely like, you're looking at me? Like me?
What's happening
your brother, your older brother? You're talking about me? Solo embraces him with this amazing hug. Another thing they've been doing a lot lately is getting so close so you can pick up the audio when they're not on mic, and him saying,
so much.
I love you. I love you.
You're my brother. I love you.
And then Jimmy, like, kind of, you could sense the relief in him. His heart came back out of his throat. And then who runs in other than?
Good old Tama Tonga. Debuting Tama Tonga. And I love the fact that he's being called Tama Tonga.
Yes.
He's not given some generic
not another
WWE-ass name.
Yes.
And that feels like a thing that's going to happen a lot more in the Triple H.
Because I think it's so disrespectful to the wrestling fans when you go and give them these other names. Like, we know who this guy is.
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't need to change the name. It's not going to help the business. It's not going to help business. It's only going to hurt it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So the Bloodline
Cassius Ohno
is obviously Cassius Ohno. I mean, not Gunther.
Well, I mean, technically,
Walter. Good old Walter.
When he first debuted. He was Walter in NXT.
And when he first went to Gunther, I was very worried that it was going to teeter and go on the other side of a line. That I'm glad they didn't go.
Butch. Thank God that's back.
Yeah, it felt very Nazi Germany. For
Piper Niven being Dewdrop.
Dewdrop.
That was atrocious.
Which she admits she hated.
I mean, what does that even mean?
What do you not like about Dewdrop?
What does that mean?
That's a great question.
Not great at all.
Tama Tonga crushed it.
Oh, he was so good.
Absolutely crushed it.
He looks incredible.
He looks amazing.
The fact that dude's in like his mid 40s.
Yeah,
and I look like
he's
this,
not. I think he's like 8 years younger than The Rock. 8 to 10. I think he's between 42 and 44.
I think he's like literally in between Roman and Rock.
Yeah,
age-wise.
Looks amazing. Looks so good.
Do you think he's going to be more of the enforcer role now, and Solo will be more of the
Solo's
the main
the next
guy?
tribal chief.
Solo is the next tribal chief.
Maybe even now current tribal chief.
Maybe. And that's how it ended, right? So we had the moment. Literally, Heyman is in the corner screaming, this is not what the tribal chief would want. This is not what he would want. They, beat the hell out of Jimmy. He got so many spikes, handle it. Then the best part was Solo going to Heyman and making him put the finger up to acknowledge him, which for me was like, who is he acknowledging? He's acknowledging the man in the ring.
I loved that, and I loved him destroying the phone when you see Paul Heyman trying to say, call Roman Reigns. Call Roman. And
in the crowd. The crowd reaction was perfect. I don't think I wasn't expecting that.
No.
Not yet. Not now. I know we talked a lot about the build-up to Mania in terms of The Rock doing this. I think Kaz was the person who said that means the spike. That's what he's talking about. Solo.
Yeah.
So now we see it kind of coming to fruition. Obviously, Rock's leaving, so you got to do something.
Right.
They crushed it. They absolutely crushed it. All the way to the backstage segment of it, too.
Yeah,
which
by
was
orders
so
of the tribal chief.
Yep.
What does that mean?
I know. Who is now? So
who is it?
So I can't wait. I imagine soon we'll get probably Roman back on TV. There'll be hopefully a confrontation.
I heard he's out indefinitely. He's pretty much out as long as he wants to.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Right.
As long as he deserves it. He deserves it.
He was doing some photo shoot with was it Kiki Palmer? I didn't see exactly what it was for.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Shout out to Kiki. That'd be a fun, weird crossover.
So weird crossover.
Well, is he doing? Is he doing the game show? Doesn't she host Jimmy Fallon's password or whatever it is?
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
So
I didn't see exactly what it was for. But
they just have a bunch of wrestlers do Family Feud.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Family Feud and stuff. That was cool. But yeah, so it's been, I mean, they're getting right into it. And Montreal was like, when you go from like a Raw after Mania crowd, right, which is just always insane, and the Raw actually lived up to it this year.
You think so?
I thought it was. I mean,
it's been way better than previous years, but I was still disappointed.
Yeah, that's my thing.
I still
agree.
disappointed.
It was better than it's been in the past,
for sure.
But I still was like, I didn't care that much for last week's.
But at least the crowd was into it.
Yeah, the crowd was absolutely.
The crowd
like, came to play.
Flanabam's gonna be taking bumps behind.
I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, we gotta be careful because I saw you go back a little bit, and I'm like, shit.
I felt it on the little hair I have left.
Yeah, you felt a little buzz there.
That's gonna be our first ad. We're gonna get some sort of soft cushion.
Yeah, I actually do have some somewhere.
Nah, you know what? I'm hardcore.
All right, yeah.
I'll take bumps.
Yeah, come on now.
Smash up that winged eagle belt behind you, throw some tape on it.
Yeah,
you got the hardcore champion.
Yeah, the guy who we know for that belt would give you one hell of a chair shot that would not even compare to the edge of that.
You wouldn't even know it was coming.
Yeah,
I would not.
Mick Foley can attest.
Yeah, he can.
So
can Ken Shamrock.
Yeah. Oh my God, those are so bad.
I would like. The Rock was reckless with the chairs.
So,
a little sidebar here.
Reckless with the chairs.
He was like,
and like that was the times, but he was
he puts an extra vigor
Yeah.
into those swings, and it was like, brother, and you know because it's funny we bring this up is because I had just sent a TikTok that popped up. I was watching it. It was like all the chair shots from like Attitude and Ruthless
just
Aggression.
The sound of them.
The one that Jeff Hardy has on Brock Lesnar.
Oh, yeah.
I, to this day, don't know how it didn't shatter this man's face. That was the loudest chair shot I've ever heard.
And Brock's had somewhere, I don't know how he didn't kill a man with his chair shots.
Oh, yeah.
Too. I mean, like...
Undertaker was low-key reckless with the chairs, too.
The only one that tops all those so far still to me is Stevie Richards to JBL.
As
the receipt for the blue meanie.
They've confirmed that wasn't technically a receipt.
I mean, it was.
I think JBL was in on it though because he said, "I really want you to lay into it." So maybe he agreed to it, but yeah, that one was fucking insane. That was a crazy chair shot. There was a crazy one, Shawn Michaels on Vince. Sounded literally like an explosion.
It was Vince, and also really cool article. I didn't get a chance. I don't know if you guys got a chance to read it yet. That went out about what Vince is doing now. MSNBC put out an article in terms of what he's doing, where he's going vacations, hanging out with Trump, all these sorts of things. I thought it was interesting to see. I gotta read the whole thing, but I'm curious to see what the hell where in the world is Vince McMahon?
The hell's he doing?
Also, just to sidetrack even more because we've kind of come off the rails here for
a
bit.
That's fine. That's what you get.
Speaking of Vince, I read a report from Dave Meltzer that said Vince has a non-disclosure till 2025, and then if he wants to, can start his own wrestling company again.
Oh God!
Could you imagine
him
if Vince starts another wrestling company?
Imagine like him and Tony Khan holding a belt up like that infamous Bloods and Crips meme.
They're like,
or like they hug each other like him and Bischoff did.
Yeah, you know,
he might just like pick Tony up and like put him on his shoulder. Put him over his shoulder. Miss Elizabeth him on his shoulder.
You know what? I kind of want this now.
I saw some stuff about how Cena and The Rock allegedly
they did that. There wasn't good PR for them.
Are, you know, but they're also like blindly loyal to Vince.
Yeah.
And, you know, Vince might try to weasel his way back into WWE.
Well, that was the report. Some people were saying like, okay, well, it's one thing to say he's talking to John Cena and The Rock. It's another thing to say he's talking to the person at the top of the board.
Right.
So like now, that is totally different than just talking to Dwayne Johnson when he was not back around. Like, that's, I think, the different connotation for a lot of folks where they're like, okay, and I think we can all understand, you know, a lot of folks having an allegiance to Vince McMahon, to literally putting, you know, Vince putting them in a position for this generational wealth to take care of himself and all these things. So I think we can take, whether we agree with it or not, we can understand it. But I think that's where a lot of folks are like, all right, but it's a little different when he's talking to the man who's literally running this place.
Right. And I don't personally, I think that, you know, obviously nobody wants Vince McMahon back for so many reasons. You put away the extremely just disgusting.
Forget about the terrible PR.
The obvious reasons.
It would make everybody in the locker room uncomfortable. You would lose the plot completely. So, although
people would literally not re-sign. Like people would leave the company.
They would leave the company because it's. I mean, the fact that they're so open about now, and you know, in their backwards kind of ways, cutting promos about how terrible things were, and how proud they were to announce the Paul Levesque era, which he's
Renaissance era,
full on Paul Levesque now, right? To put the Triple H in in quotations, but
He's Paul Triple H.
Levesque. I love that they still won't let the Triple H go. They can never let that.
I mean, that's like Bobby the Brain Heenan. You know, it's kind of like part of your name,
or it's like Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Exactly. So I just, to me, I think that this is kind of like a juicy story because they're still in contact with him, maybe allegedly. They're going to leave that speculation open that, hey, is this going to leave the door open for him to come back? I do not see a world. We've seen happen before. We've seen it happen before, but I don't think there's a world where that can exist.
This is different.
TKO is very much aware of they caught lightning in a freaking bottle, and I don't think that Nick Khan, Triple H, even The Rock, regardless of how loyal you think The Rock and John Cena are to to Vince McMahon for what he did for them, and even The Undertaker for that matter. Yeah. But I'd be damned if you don't think they also see the direction that things are going.
Right.
The times that we live in, and not that it was right in any times, but there's no way with the allegations that are out there about Vince McMahon, you can allow this man to be anywhere near WWE programming or the company as a whole. So I think it's just a juicy story to get people talking, and here we are. We're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's also still, it hasn't been brought up as charges yet, but they're still looking into potential criminal charges.
Oh,
there's also still a chance he goes to jail.
And I mean,
and then can't come back.
We can't imagine that. And I believe her name is Janelle Grant. I believe is the name. I don't want to misspeak.
Right. Yes,
but
I did see that. Yeah.
It's hard to believe she's the only one. I mean, come on. Not. There's got to be more. There's got to be more to it. We've also heard former wrestlers and past performers speculate. I forget. Was it Ashley Massaro who passed away?
She passed away a few years ago.
Who had
she was going before she died. She was apparently going to bring a lawsuit.
Was going to bring a lawsuit because she had spoken about so many things throughout the years, and naturally because Vince was at the top, nobody wanted to hear her. So I mean, this is the only tip of the iceberg. With his money and his means, I'm sure he will keep many of these closed, and we'll never hear of him. But this is far from the end of this.
Although I will say, just for clarification reasons, if I'm remembering the Ashley Massaro story correctly, she claims she was sexually assaulted on one of their Tribute for the Truth tours, but it wasn't Vince.
Not Vince, but
so
I
just,
think
just to clarify, I mean, Vince really covered it up.
Yes, Vince covered it all up, knew about it, swept it under the rug, etc.
It's basically Vince's attitude.
So there's a lot. I mean, I don't
just as bad.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but just to say, just for clarification.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, these are not the things you want to misspeak on,
right?
100%, because they're so important, and these are real life people and real life things, and should not be taken lightly. And we will never shed any sort of light on that in that way. But yeah, I mean, do we even know if his family wants to be around him at this point? Like we saw what Stephanie did when he came back onto the board. That's when she left. So
she dipped.
So many different things that can go. But to get us back on the rails,
yes,
you mentioned Tama Tonga being the potential enforcer,
right?
I think what's going to happen, whether he's short-term enforcer, Jacob Fatu, we know, is signed
I was going to bring that up in a minute.
Jacob Fatu's father, Tama Tonga's father, the Islanders.
Yes.
Right? So they were a tag team back in the day it was Haku and Rikishi. Haku and Rikishi. Yeah. So Haku and Rikishi, obviously solo with Rikishi.
It was Rikishi. Was it Haku?
Well, Jacob Fatu's father. So Haku is Tama Tonga's father.
Right.
So just the picture we saw
I'm just
was
trying
those.
To remember the
yes,
tag
the Islanders were Haku and Jacob Fatu's father, which
I think it's Rikishi. I think he's
no. It's I
thought he was one of Rikishi's kids.
He's Rikishi's brother.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So it's Rikishi's brother who was in the Islanders. It's the Bloodlines.
Yeah,
we've seen the family tree, folks.
Right.
But I forget. I don't know if it was Sam Fatu. I think it's Sam Fatu. I forget the name he wrestled under. But as the
Sam
Islanders,
Fatu.
Yeah. So Sam Fatu is Jacob Fatu's father.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is Rakishi's brother. Haku is Tama Tonga's father. They were the Islanders in the 80s. I forget who their manager was. But they were the Islanders in the 80s.
Captain Lou?
I think it might have been Captain Lou. I knew it was someone very famous. So I think what we're going to see ultimately is Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu become the reincarnation of the Islanders in the Bloodline as another tag team, essentially taking the place of the Usos and getting their own title run.
What I think is going to happen down the line, probably my actual speculation is Survivor Series at War Games. You're going to get OG Bloodline, which will be Usos, now reformed, not necessarily as a tag team, but like back together Usos with Roman Reigns.
It's happening.
And I think maybe even Cody Rhodes, surprisingly enough.
Sami Zayn?
Taking up, maybe Sami Zayn.
It could happen.
Taking on
managed by Bobby Heenan, by the way.
Oh,
all right. That makes, yep.
And they'll take on the new Bloodline, which will be Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, Jacob Fatu, and I think a returning Rock. In War Games.
Yeah. Ooh.
I think that's going to be War Games.
Fire. That would be fire. And there's also other names out there. We know there's other. And shout out to our man Chris, who's a huge listener, big fan of the pod, huge PC fan as well, who dropped a GIF and was talking to us earlier about who else joins, and it was Huki Leo who is in New Japan, who's another one who's been speculated to come. Zilla Fatu,
I think his contract's up soon.
Yes, I think all their contracts were up at similar times.
Yeah.
That's why the dominoes started to go. Zilla Fatu, who is the son of Umaga, who's also in the mix. I believe. I don't know where he's wrestling now. I think CGW. But he's another one who could potentially. I mean, pretty much anybody. If you're in the family, you are being speculated at some point that you're going to join the Bloodline, and it makes so much sense. And honestly, I fear that it turns into like this NWO thing where you just randomly grabbing people who have no business.
I hope it doesn't.
But I don't think they'll do it. I think they are too prideful that they won't let it turn into that.
I hope it doesn't get as big as the NWO does, but I do kind of hope it turns into a NWO Black and White versus NWO Wolfpack type situation.
Okay, so some inter-family beef. Is
right, exactly. Yeah,
that would be dope.
That's what I think War Games is going to be. For the men's
sick.
War Games, the women's, I have no idea.
Cool,
I mean,
man.
it's crazy the possibilities, and I think that would be amazing.
Right.
The Rock in the ring with all those guys.
Yeah, because Rock could come out last and only have to be in there for like 5 to 10 minutes.
Exactly.
That would be cool as hell. Maybe that's what we talked about at Mania. Do we see Rikishi? Maybe that's an opportunity for some sort of Rikishi slam the door on somebody trying to get out. Like there's so many. I saw who was it?
Rikishi could turn on one of his sons, and he did it for The Rock.
Oh, he did it for The Rock.
There's just so much here. It's so good. It's so good. But yeah, I think the Usos are going to be back together by SummerSlam. Personally, I think so. I think the promo Jay cut in terms of like, well, listen, I didn't want this to happen. This is it. Like I told him this was going to happen. He needs to. I wanted him to come back to me and all these things. I think that's what we're going to see.
Do you think maybe they do a Jimmy J rematch first to try to hopefully correct that terrible Mania match?
And then finish with a nice big hug in the ring to let that be the moment. It would be cool, but I don't think so.
I don't think
I'm curious if you guys think it's going to happen.
I don't think it will.
I don't think they will. I don't think it will.
I don't think there's really any reason to do it, to be honest. I feel like
other than to hopefully correct terrible Mania
I don't think that they're thinking that way. I think they were just like that. The story line ended. You know what I mean? Like that arc is over. I think now they've clearly building up this Jimmy being kicked out of the Bloodline type of situation. Maybe it's leading towards some type of, I don't think they're going to be the Usos as a tag team.
No, but I think they're going to be on each other's. They're going to be like, they're going to be brothers again.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, literally, Jay is fighting for the belt, so he is main event Jey Uso in its purest form at this point.
Although I wouldn't count out a title win for them at next year's Mania. Maybe not a long run, maybe even only like a month-long run with it, but I wouldn't count out a reunition at Mania to win the tag titles.
It depends
from maybe a Jacob Fatu Tama Tongo tag team.
Yep, because think of that pop.
Exactly.
How good that could be.
That'll be wild.
100%.
We are just, it's the Bloodline's world, and we're just living in it.
Yeah,
it's just
we can fantasy book the Bloodline.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways.
Billion different ways.
The craziest thing is we could all go in like 18 different stories, and all of them would make sense.
You've seen that family tree.
Right.
Yep. And then think of you could even bring the women too. Like you could bring Naomi, and you have Ava Raine, you have Nia Jax, you have Tamina. You can bring the women in so many different ways too.
Definitely. And speaking of tag team, we're going to take a break here. I do want to bring up the new tag team titles that were debuted on Monday. So we got new tag titles. The World Tag Team Champions. That is going to be the Raw exclusive belts.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, they have the red finish behind it.
No, it's black.
Yeah,
they just the part that says World and Champions.
No, I know the straps. I know the straps are black, but like behind the actual plate itself is
silver.
Red.
Is it? I didn't think so.
I saw the pictures on their website. It's silver.
Red behind
the red that's on the belt is like
it says the World Tag Team Champions, and that's more like a burgundy-ish.
And that is the thing that fucked me up. Is I looked at that red, and for some reason I thought Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know why. It looked that red. It kind of had that
with the silver in the letter. Yeah,
it just was just screaming to me Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I don't know why that fucked me up in my head. That was the very first thing I saw when I saw those.
You know what?
I have no idea why, but
I didn't put that together. But now that you say that, I can totally see it.
And I think that we were talking about like how
I
mean, the NFL belts and all the different belts.
It says World Tag Team, and it's red behind it, and Champions it's red, and then the globe itself is red.
The globe is red.
Yeah. So to me,
I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah, no, I've looked at the detail of the belt pretty close because I knew there was a color behind it, and on TV you can't really tell.
Well, to me it was more like a burgundy-ish.
I mean,
that's like a darker red.
Do you associate that color with Raw or SmackDown?
Well, I don't associate it with either. To me, this is Raw red, like my shirt that I can't pull out for some reason.
I just don't think they would use that color if it wasn't going to be a Raw specific belt. It looks like the heavyweight championship that's on Raw. Right.
But my thing is, I think they made it that so that way if
the belt
they switch in the draft, they don't have to do that stupid thing where they change belts. Like, I think they have no problem with the World Tag Team Championship being on SmackDown. I think that's why they rebranded it.
And I imagine, too, this Friday is when we'll see the
SmackDown.
So that way, that'll probably confirm.
But if it comes out and it looks like the Universal title.
It's going to.
So
That's
to me, it tells me it's brand specific, you know, because like why would they have it look differently?
I don't think it's brand specific. I think it's set specific. I think all of them will stay together.
Whoever
but
that
they'll go on whatever
belt
brand
is with the tag belts.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I can totally see, Mike, where you're like, well, why would the red show up on SmackDown? Because that
I think it's just a nice. It made the silver pop.
Yeah, I think it looks good. But
I think it looks. I like the actual look of it. I just hate that it's the world title but a circle.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
I hate that.
I hate that middle plate. To me, looks so circular compared to the other plates.
That's their tag.
And I know
thing
that's
now.
what it. But it just that kind of threw me off a little because I was just like, it looks not like a prop belt, but it looked a little different in terms of the shape. And then maybe it was the way it was sitting on the table. I don't know, but that threw me off a little bit too. I was like, it kind of looks like a play belt that comes with a figurine in terms of the shape.
It reminds me a lot. I don't know if either of you guys watch the brand and know what the belts look like, but it reminds me a lot of the NXT UK tag team titles.
Yes,
because they had that same look, except there was more blue in that than this one has no blue as far as I remember.
Yeah, speaking of NXT UK world title belts were some of the best belts.
Oh, their belts were
ever
phenomenal.
Yeah,
so
those belts were sick.
Good.
And I'm glad that they're going back to more of the classic type style.
Yeah.
You know, the logo is still in the middle of the belt, but to me, I think it's like tasteful. Like it's not like overbearing like the Universal Championship is.
Undisputed championships, no longer universal.
Oh, I'm sorry. The undisputed. That's going to confuse me.
I get
The
it.
fact that you have two U's, like that's fucked up. You can't put two
because it's so
U
interchangeable.
words.
I mean, I guess you could have kept one, and you could have kept Universal and dropped Undisputed, and vice versa.
I just like WWE champion and World Heavyweight champion.
Exactly.
I don't think
Same.
there's
I mean,
that's
how
what
I'm
we've
going
known
to
forever.
refer to it
That's
as,
what we
but
grew
yeah.
up on.
Right. So I feel like it would just be a lot easier if they just did that.
But
With all that being said, we've mentioned a little bit how we feel about them, but what's the overall? These are clearly better than the previous tag teams.
Massive upgrade. I will say the bar was in hell in terms of an upgrade.
Yeah.
Those belts were disgusting.
They were the worst belts in the company.
I hated the Velcro strap on the back, that silver on the front. Just for me, that silver clashed with both the blue and the red. And didn't look good.
Looked stupid.
Awful.
They
So
look
I
like
think
nickels.
the bar was in hell. These are a massive upgrade.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how much I do like them. I like them. I'm trying to figure out how much I do like them. I'm interested to see SmackDown ones and see. Obviously, I imagine it'll look very.
See the circle
Yes, to
WWE
see what that
titles.
looks like with the WWE. But yeah, massive upgrade.
Agreed.
Absolutely. I love that it's R-Truth and Miz that
Yeah,
get
that
to
was
be the
great.
first ones to rock them. I think that is awesome. But yeah, massive upgrade. I mean, I think that, kudos to them for listening and doing it. I'm sure. I mean, we know as fans, I don't think anybody's really liked those blue and red ones since they popped up on the scene.
I didn't even like them when they were the pennies.
Yeah, so
I didn't like those.
I think they were even worse with the fucking
The copper, whatever.
So yeah,
bronze.
kudos to Paul Levesque for listening to folks again and making a change that we all wanted and needed.
Yeah, I definitely like them better. I'm also not in love with them. I think the circular shape fucks me up.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with the circular shape.
I don't really like it. I think I miss the I just again.
You know what it gives me too, and I'm sorry to interrupt, is like boxing belts. You see like WBO,
Yeah.
WBC, they have that big middle, and then the side plates are a lot smaller. It gives me that vibe too.
Yeah.
I don't really like that. I think it's too awkward looking. I'm also not crazy about it looking too much like the heavyweight championship.
That's my thing.
I don't really like that. I think to me, I get it. It's in the same set, and you want it to all be kind of, for lack of a better term, universal. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like the tag titles should be separate from the heavyweight champions.
Yeah.
So if you want to have, no longer Rhea, but if you want the women's title, heavyweight title, and the men's to look similar, that's fine. But I feel like it takes away from the uniqueness of different titles. Mm-hmm. Look how different the Intercontinental title looks,
right?
Yeah.
Which I hate still.
title.
Look, the U.S. title. They have a unique look to them, whereas these just feel like. I don't know. But then again, you can make the argument. It's like, well, they're the heavyweight champions of the tag team division, so they should have a similar belt.
Right, but it's what they did this in the Ruthless Aggression era when they first did the Raw and SmackDown split. They had the World Heavyweight title, which was Big Gold, and then they had the World Tag Team Champions, and that wasn't just a smaller version of Big Gold.
Yeah,
it was its own looking tag team titles, which those look great. I would have been fine with them bringing those back.
I know. There's so many previous.
Yeah, I mean
looks
those mid
Literally
'90s,
every
those early
previous
to
look
mid '90s
before the copper ones are phenomenal.
Yeah, though I think those are the ones I always come back to.
In my opinion, there was no bad tag team title in WWE until those copper ones came in.
Yeah.
Everything before that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Ruthless Aggression belts were so good.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the 80s and 90s one that
Yeah.
lasted
That-
forever.
that-
This
that-
one here,
yeah.
that to
That-
me is my favorite.
That's
That's
the
my
best
favorite,
one.
man.
I
I'm not
also-
looking at it, but
you know
I
exactly
already
what
know
it is.
what ones
Yeah,
you're talking about.
that
Those
is
are
my
the
favorite.
best tag team
And for some
titles.
reason, when I think of that, you know, one of the very first teams I think of when I think of that,
Heart Foundation.
Smoking Guns.
yeah,
Fair.
The smoking gun, maybe because it just fit the aesthetic of their gimmick.
And I think
it just I don't know.
I think
think
they
of,
also
like,
held them the most in the new
Yes,
generation.
yeah.
I think of Legion of Doom.
Yep.
I think of the Heart Foundation.
Yeah, Heart Foundation.
But so memorable.
Oh, yeah.
So memorable.
The WCW titles in the 90s were
Oh,
beautiful.
those tag titles were amazing
beautiful.
too. Yeah. That
Which
TV
ones?
title, oof.
The TV title, like the ones that look like the TV title.
Yup.
They had the
Because there's a
actual-
set of WCW tag titles I like more than the other ones. Like the ones from the early 90s, I think look way better than the ones from the late 90s. The
Yeah.
tag
Even here, you're
titles.
looking. Even I think the AEW current tag
Yeah,
titles
those
are
look
great.
fire.
Yeah, I
Those
like
are
those a lot
incredible.
too.
So good.
They're
Yeah, I'm trying to
AEW's
find-
best titles, in my opinion.
I agree.
I'm trying to find the
I agree.
WCW
And I think the
ones here, but-
Continental Crown is up there
Yeah.
now. I love that. I love the way that one looks.
That should be their mid card title, just because it looks the
Yup.
best of all their mid card titles.
Yeah, and it makes sense who it's on now.
Exactly,
How to-
yeah.
It's perfect for that part.
Yeah. Him and Edge should have a match where they combine the two titles, but it just stays the Continental title.
The ones that the Harlem Heat carried, the WCW titles,
Yes,
those are fire.
Those are good too.
Like
Yup.
it was gold. It had the pop of blue. You know
Simple.
me, I'm
Okay.
a blue mark when it comes to.
See the ones because they're like I said,
yeah,
they're
it's
two
kind of
that I'm
hard.
thinking
We're
of.
tight quarters here,
That-
but
yeah.
but these right here, that's just crap. Anyways, bad,
You know
really
these
bad
bad boys.
podcasting right now. Really bad podcasting.
Yeah, those are the ones
Those
I'm
are-
talking
Yeah, these
about.
are my
So
favorite
fucking
ones.
Those are
good.
incredible.
Those are
Yeah, those are amazing. I think of like
Because there are
the
ones
outsiders.
there are ones that came a little bit after those that are still good but not as good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the outsiders when they carried those belts. Like I just
Yeah.
remember like even when I
The
would
Steiners with those.
Steiners,
looked incredible.
just beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. I'm a blue mark on my titles, man. I
Yeah.
like look at the belts behind us right now. I'm pretty sure you can see them in video.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
get any better than
The, the big eagle and the winged eagle. I love the gold with the pop of the blue, man.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it screams prestige.
How do you feel about Big Gold though?
I've never been a big fan of it.
No?
To be honest, I
I
think
love
it's,
me some Big
Yeah,
Gold.
I do
think
love
it's
Big
cool.
Gold.
These are better, but I think it's third to me at least.
well because of the history of it.
Not
you know,
even just the design. Like even if it was just held by Jeff Jarrett, I think it would still be probably my third favorite world title.
Yeah, I think for me, I love the way it looks, but also for me, I think it's part of that cachet. Like I
Yeah.
remember seeing like Flair, and
Yeah,
you
I mean,
had
like
those
Flair
guys, even like when Goldberg. had it.
Goldberg,
Like, it's just,
man, he looks sick with it.
It looks so good on
Yeah.
the
Hogan
on
held
whoever
it for
had
way
it.
too
And
long.
I think WCW, and I say this with a caveat because if WCW was still around, I'm sure they would have fucked up a lot of belts by 2024.
True.
But their belts through that whole promotion, especially the 90s and early 2000s
Yeah.
growth, they didn't miss on many belts.
Oh, no.
Aesthetically, everything.
Cruiserweight belt, TV title, like we
title.
talked about. I mean, they didn't miss much.
The only ones of theirs I wasn't a huge fan of was their hardcore title. I thought it was.
I don't even
damn-
remember
it.
that
No.
one.
Yeah.
To be
It was-
honest,
And
it
that's
was
what WW's was so perfect. 'Cause
yeah.
what's better than hardcore title than it just fucked up
Winged Eagle
belt?
just
Like, it
smashed
just
up.
Makes so much sense.
The belts just are not as good now. I don't know. I'm not
No.
crazy about any of them. But I will say
Except in NXT. NXT has a nice set
They
of
do.
belts.
They
NXT
do
has
well.
and AEW minus their heavyweight championship. I think.
Yeah,
the
I think
heavyweight
AEW's got a bit.
championship
Who are
Yeah.
good too.
Although I
Yeah.
like the heavyweight title more than some of their like third and fourth mid card
Yeah.
titles.
Their tag
So
team titles
TNT,
are
you don't like
beautiful.
TNT.
I
You
don't like
yeah,
the TNT
I
or
don't- I don't.
TBS. I don't like
I like
the
TBS
international
more, but I
title.
don't-
I'm not a huge fan of the international.
I
that
just
the red
don't like
one?
those boxy.
It's the one
belts.
that looks like the women's title, but but
Okay,
Roderick
what's
Strong
the
holds it.
red one? I'm sorry. I'm thinking of New Japan. The New Japan, I think light heavyweight is red. The one Omega had.
That's the IWGP
IWGP
US Championship.
yes,
which
the
I
US
don't
one,
like
which is
the
fairly
oval
new.
title.
That one is fucking
That one was
amazing. I remember
incredible.
Omega had it when he was on
Yeah,
AEW.
which isn't
We're gonna
around
get into
anymore now.
yes,
I
we're gonna
agree
get
with
into that in a moment.
And that one got ruined. It was so much better before than it is now.
Yeah,
that
it
title.
looks so different.
It looks worse.
Yeah. So
Hopefully, the man holding it now can bring.
I hope so.
regardless, we're all in agreement that it was a change that was needed. We're
very
happy
needed.
that they did it, and it is an improvement
Absolutely.
It
from
is
the previous tag team
major
titles.
improvement.
Worlds better than
Major.
what was there before.
Yeah.
I like it as a standalone title if it wasn't the fact that they have two other titles that look exactly like it.
Agreed.
Exactly.
If that was the only one that looked like that, I would love these things. But I don't like that we have so many of the same looking
Yep.
titles.
Yep. And again, we'll see Friday what those are going to look like. We can imagine exactly what they're going to look, but I'm very curious to see what they look like and to see if like, I actually like these a little more than Mondays or not.
Right.
I think probably not, just because I like the world more than I like the WWE title.
Same.
So
I think I'm going to like them less, but I already know they're
what
just
if they debut a new WWE title?
That would be incredible.
See, I'm not going to lie.
Cody teased it.
Yes,
he did.
When I saw the table and I saw Triple H and I saw Pierce, I'm like, wait a minute. But then I saw the two outlines underneath.
I saw two of them.
And that was a giveaway. At first, I'm like, this is it, because he teased it, and I'm like, are we going to see this fucking bad boy again? Or are we going to see a new version? I expected a new version of this.
Right.
But I hope we see it. I still hope
That'd
so.
be lit.
It'd be dope.
I want to see a new one. Here's why I don't think we will. They only debuted the one Cody's holding less than a year ago.
Yeah.
Right, but
that is a new iteration.
But it also is a completely different era.
No, it's a new era.
They're making it known.
Yeah.
So,
This is true.
Triple H debuted this one.
but how many times have they debuted?
So like it's still under Triple H's era, technically.
It's kind of. Vince was still involved then.
Yeah, but I feel like Triple H was the one who picked that belt.
I don't know. I don't think he would have done that. I don't think he would have gone full brand. Vince was all about his brand.
Yeah.
To me, that reeked of like, hey, we're going to give Roman this new prestigious title, and it's just going to look exactly the same except more gold.
But now it's more gold. It's not even really. It's like mustard.
Yeah,
It is.
It's to
It
me.
is a
I
funky
think
gold.
if you really
It's
want
like
to usher
this
in,
looks
say,
more
it's-
gold than
Yeah.
that title.
And I do think to that point, I think the main reason, I think it's probably many reasons why we might not see a new belt. I think the main reason is because of branding.
Yeah.
You see that belt from a million miles away, you know exactly what that logo is. With
And-
some of these other belts with the logos a little small, a little different, I think that might be the one reason why WWE and most importantly TKO is like, no, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
That is the brand. We're not taking that
and
off anybody.
it's the type of belt that since they have, I mean, we talked about it a little bit before, not recording, but how they did the NFL titles
Yep.
and they've done the
Right.
MLB titles, but they haven't done them yet for like hockey or basketball.
Yep.
So that WWE title is the thing you can give to
It's gonna
the
happen.
Stanley Cup champions or the
It's
NHL
true.
champions and still have that giant logo front and center.
Yep.
I think it depends on which direction they want to go. I think that is the most likely scenario
Yeah.
where
Right.
they're like, we're not ready to give it up because of the
Right.
branding and people carrying it around and, Mahomes having it over his shoulder.
Right.
But Cody is known to be a historian of wrestling.
Yeah.
He brought back the IC title back in the day with the white
Give it a nice
strap.
white strap. Look
Yep.
gorgeous.
He's
Talking of great
teased
belts.
a
Yeah.
new
Oh my God.
belt. He teased, the current belt with an older belt side by side. They're introducing a new tag team title that they're going to want to look very similar to the current WWE Undisputed Champion. What is it?
Yeah.
Is
You
it
got
Undisputed
Undisputed?
WWE I think Undisputed goes first.
I'm going to fuck that up.
You just got to
Whatever.
say it like Sam Irvin. That's
Yeah.
the only
Yeah.
way you'll get it right.
All right. But if they're going to debut it, it's going to be this Friday. If we don't
Yeah.
see a new
Yeah, oh yeah.
But here's
WWE Championship this week, we're not getting one.
Here's the other thing, though. They would then also, you have to get a new women's title.
Yep.
Because they're going to have the whole set be the same.
True?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it'd be three sets of, it'd
Maybe
be
they
three new
do.
titles. Which,
For the next
again,
8 months, SmackDown is still the marquee show.
right.
So maybe they choose to do that.
Right.
To usher in a new era.
And again, I hope I'm wrong. I want new titles. I
Yeah.
want to make that clear, but I don't think we're getting them.
Glass half
unfortunately.
full.
Yeah.
Glass half full.
Yeah, because I think for the business standpoint we talked about, but as just fucking marks, it would make
Yeah,
sense.
exactly.
We'd love it. We'd
Fantasy
love it.
booking, man. That's
Yeah.
what we
Love
do. A few more things. I'm going to give the Kayfabe Cousins their AEW update. I'm also still not caught up on that yet, but just a few things to wrap up on Raw. Or actually, we'll get to this first, and we'll wrap up the other thing after. Sheamus is back.
It's fight night.
Can we not body shame Sheamus? Can we not do that?
Yeah.
Like, are we serious right now?
Also, he's not. This
I
is
know,
fat.
yeah, I was gonna say,
this
he looks
is
better
what
than
fat
fucking
looks
everybody.
Like.
He looks
Sheamus
better than
is
all of
not
us, so,
fat.
like,
he's
come
just
on.
thick.
Yeah.
To all the people online that are making the jokes, and which, by the way, shout out to him. He's such a good sport.
Yeah.
He's laughing along with him and stuff. He tweeted, I think, I'm just big boned.
Right.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Sheamus,
Kudos to him.
I love you. As an actual big bone man, you were
Yeah.
not big bone,
No.
my guy. You
No.
were.
No.
I would love to look like
Yeah,
you.
99% of the world's population would change bodies with Sheamus.
Oh,
Absolutely.
100%, brother.
Tomorrow.
100%, because this dude's going to get shredded up. First of
Yeah.
all, he's recovering from a major injury.
Yeah, neck
He-
injury too,
Yeah,
which is like
major
a lot.
neck
Hard
injury.
nerve.
He's not supposed to be back in the ring, folks.
He had
He's
nerve
not.
injury, so like that's hard to work out with.
Bulking up, very
Mm-hmm.
clearly been, putting weight back on, who knows what type of diet he was on during his recovery and his rehab.
Yeah.
And he's bulking up. This dude's going to be shredded in a
Oh,
month.
yeah.
I mean,
he's going to be in the ring. He's going to go on the road, do
and
some
he
more
looked
shows.
good. He was good in the ring, and it's great to have him back because I think that he is a guy that is going to really elevate some of these guys that may need the rub, right?
Yeah.
Because he's that veteran
Yep.
who can still go, is still believable to win. man,
WWE's
don't body
heading
shame
over.
my guy.
No,
dude.
it makes no
Back
sense.
up.
If you're body shaming him, fuck you.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
yeah.
just point. That's it.
Yeah,
Point blank. Period.
unless you're Jade Cargill, just keep your mouth closed.
Right.
Because there's really nothing you can say.
Also, he brought back Lobster Head.
Yes.
I'm fucking pumped about that.
No,
This
so
guy,
good.
he's just so
and the
good.
timing was impeccable.
Yeah.
But they're now going on their UK run.
Right.
Yeah.
So what a perfect time to bring him
I don't think that
back.
was
The
an
fan
accident.
base love him there.
Probably
yeah,
not.
yeah, oh yeah, they know what they're doing.
I'll be honest, I was a little, when they announced it ahead of time, I was a little surprised. I thought they'd save him for post-draft.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they didn't. It was an awesome
Yeah.
segment.
He did
I
also
do-
say that he was supposed to be post-draft.
Oh, okay. I didn't
I
see
don't
that.
know if that was like him still playing it up to like the people making fun of him, but he
Right.
did say he came back earlier than he was expecting. He was supposed to be there post-draft, and so that's why maybe he was a little bit not in the condition he wanted to
Right.
be in, which, by the way, again,
I know.
I would trade
Who
bodies
of
with
us
him
is-
in a
what are
second.
we doing
Exactly.
here? What are we doing here?
He
I love
just, to me, he just looked like every top guy in the 80s and early 90s.
yeah,
looked.
Big Haas.
Like, that was the body
I
type
know.
back
Look
then.
at
He
these
just
guys.
looked old
like,
school.
all of the guys who
I'd
had
call that
like
old
the
man strength.
Right.
I forget the names, but all these guys who had like these nicknames or monikers of like the handsome, the beautiful, the
Yeah.
this, the that, were always fat,
Yeah.
sloppy,
Yeah.
overweight guys.
The American dream.
Every single
Exactly.
one of them. Like,
Ric Flair wasn't. Like,
I know.
Hulk fucking Hogan, the top
Yep.
guy, was not shredded.
No.
He was a thick man.
Yep.
He got pretty shredded at one point though when he went full on.
Like, he never really had, like,
Well, no, yeah, I guess not the
six-pack
six-pack,
abs.
six-pack,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah.
was jacked.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
He was always big.
he always had
was
the
a thick
22-inch
guy.
pythons.
Yeah,
Right.
oiled up to the fucking high
Yeah.
heavens. So you just lay off.
Yeah,
the shit.
Playboy Buddy Rose was the one who I
Yeah.
said. Playboy, go Google Playboy Buddy Rose if you've never seen him.
Yeah, he
Not
was-
fucking the epitome of what we would
No.
consider beautiful.
No.
He kind of looked like a smaller me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and he could go. So
Yeah, he could go. I will say my one kind of nitpicky thing about Sheamus, I didn't love that they had him kind of almost just squash Ivar. Because
Yeah.
especially
I
because
know.
they're having Ivar do this whole thing on NXT.
Yup,
It's like, why make him look
Which
weak
that
before
was
he goes?
cool the other day. I
Yeah.
him on NXT. Yeah, I don't know. And even Ivar, not to the level of Ricochet the last couple months, but he's been getting opportunities and been
He's
in
been getting
spots
pushed
and
a
getting a
bit.
push, and good for him. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
I just think there's a bunch of other people it could have been. It didn't need to be him.
100%.
Agree with that. But it's good to have him back. We're excited to have him back. Now I want to finish with the end of Raw, but I want you. We're gonna give the Kayfabe Cousins your AEW update because you guys were pumped about what happened on Dynamite last night.
Yeah, so interesting Dynamite episode last night. Started with John Moxley, an appearance, and Flanabam, you want to tell him why John Moxley was in the ring last night?
He's the new IWGP heavyweight,
He
world
is.
heavyweight champion. I
Yes.
forget what they rebranded it
I
as.
think it's World Heavyweight
Okay,
Champion.
World Heavyweight Champion. Which the
belt
old
is
belt was
atrocious.
better.
It looks like a Divas era fucking belt.
It
Like
looks
it
almost
looks,
like a butterfly.
Yeah, it does not look good at
No.
all. Not fitting of a champion.
No.
But kudos to Moxley.
Yeah.
As the Fuck the Revival, aka FTR, pointed out, Moxley and them are the only two folks to hold championships in WWE, AEW, and New Japan to this point.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
they're
right.
the only two. They're the only two who's done it. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mox, who I think, again, in listening to his promo again last night, he is so fucking underrated.
Oh, yeah.
John Moxley is so underrated. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because he's this workman who goes everywhere, and it's not to say that he doesn't build a fan base in one place, but because he's so over there and he's so unorthodox and unconventional with the things he does, he's fucking money. The promo last night was amazing.
awesome.
He didn't miss a beat.
No.
Just the camera angle too that I love, like filming him from putting the camera in between the two, the bottom rope and the middle rope, and getting him in that opposite corner of him piercing down. It gave me
Yeah.
like Jake the Snake vibes.
Yeah.
It was very menacing and perfect for Mox.
Oh, yeah.
So good to see him back in the ring. He looks great. I'm excited to see what he does with that belt. I'm excited to see it on American TV,
Yeah.
which we don't really see. We see a lot of those belts, but that's one that I don't think we've seen on American television much.
No, not that I'm trying to remember. No, because even once AEW, the most recent person who's been on American TV a lot, who's been that champion, was Kenny.
Yeah.
But he wasn't, he was already...
He had already
dropped
passed
it
on,
by
yes,
the time
and picked up
AEW
the one that
started.
we mentioned the other day. Yep.
And Ospreay's held that one on the IWGP US Championship
Yes.
on AEW, but I don't think even
Not
he
that
held the
one.
world
No.
title on
So that was
AEW.
cool. It was cool to see there. Cool to see Moxley back. Called out Powerhouse Hobbs,
Yeah,
which was so random.
But give me that match.
But I love it. Like,
Hell yeah.
fucking, it's gonna be a war. It was cool. I thought he said, "I'm going for the biggest, the baddest." In my head, I'm like, okay, where's he gonna go? There's
Right.
so many ways he can go. Had Joe not been the champ, I would have thought maybe he's talking about Joe.
Yeah.
But good for Hobbs. Good
I
for
agree,
Hobbs to
yeah.
get that rub and get that opportunity. Hobbs is a beast, like you said. That's gonna be a hell of a match.
Hell yeah.
Moxley said, "I am gonna beat the shit out of him and
Yeah.
literally drag him around." So I want to see that match and what that visual is gonna
Same.
look like.
Now, They didn't announce it yet, right? Because I'm kind of hoping it doesn't happen at Dynasty, just because there's already a lot on Dynasty.
Yes,
Save
I would
it
hold
for Double
it.
or Nothing.
Yeah, I would hold it. They might have actually said Double or Nothing, but
Okay.
I don't know that they confirmed for Dynasty.
Okay.
But yeah,
'cause I remember him calling him out, but I didn't remember if they
I don't think
said
they went
anything
to
up
it.
yet.
But that's cool. Nice to see Mox back. Nice that he got that belt, man. Just another fucking something to put on the mantle to just show how great he is, how illustrious his career has been at this point. He's not done, and he looks like he's having fun.
Yeah,
he looks like he's in good health. I know he's battled some demons and other things outside of the ring before. He looks great. Yeah. So yeah, it's just nice to see Mox back.
I agree. And he's a guy that, I mean, AEW especially can rely on. I mean, how many times did they put the world title on him?
Yes,
because whoever was holding it got injured or got suspended,
and
or
they knew what
whatever,
they were going to get.
Like, well, we can rely on Moxley. So it's nice to see him get, his flowers somewhere else, like 100%. In Japan.
And it was nice while he was in Japan still working, he took his time up, but it was nice to see him get a break from AEW.
Yeah.
Like we knew when he had dropped the belt way back was to MJF originally, I think. Yeah. He got a nice break. It was nice to see him get the break that he deserved. So it's nice to have him back now and see what he does with the strap.
Yeah, I hope he took some nice time, because I don't think he even wrestled in Japan much till
I don't
he
think
won
so
the title
on because even when he won the title, I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know this was happening. So that was cool. And then the other big thing that happened last night. So we talked a little bit about this on last week's episode. The video, the backstage video of All Out that was shown with CM Punk and Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and kind of how AEW didn't and just jumped fucking into it, and in some ways blew up in their face. Ironically enough, Jungle Boy Jack Perry wrestled a couple days later in Chicago
and got a fucking pop.
I want to give him kudos because I thought he handled it really well. The pop was crazy. It was funny because you saw some writers who you can tell are anti-AEW and be like, no, they were shitting on him and they were doing this. And it's like, no, they were actually popping for Jack Perry.
They were fucking behind him.
He came out with the jacket on.
That said Cry Me a River.
It said Cry Me a River. Obviously, the scapegoat shirt. So he leaned into it. Obviously, they're in Chicago.
He also came out with the Chicago flag, which was such a dope move.
So good. Shout out to him. I'm not the biggest Jack Perry fan. I haven't been. I think in a lot of this stuff we've known it's been a shit show, but I thought that was cool that he just went full heel in that crowd, had a good match, and walked out and got an ovation.
And I think we're going to see him. I think he's making his AEW return on Dynamite. I think he's going to help cost FTR, and he's going to align with the Elite. He's going to make them the world
because that's what they're building. Obviously,
exactly,
even I forgot it was Nicholas or Matt had the scapegoat shirt on the other day. So last night, what happens is coming out of that video, we see the Bucks backstage. There's it starts with an FTR video package coming back from commercial. Yeah, and this was cool because this I appreciated. Peeling the curtain back, you could kind of hear Nicholas and Matthew like, oh, no, speed it up, do this. And I'm like, wait, what's going on with the package? Like, at first I was like, is the package fucked up? Like, they really had me. Cuts to them at Gorilla.
With the headset on.
With the headsets on. Like, fuck that package, essentially. We don't give a fuck about these guys. Let's talk about us. And as you see the camera start to pan out, Tony Khan is sitting right next to them at Gorilla, which obviously is a callback to the video of Punk trying to get to him at Gorilla, but we never see Tony. Last night, we actually see Tony sitting at Gorilla, looking as goofy as ever with his headset on, just kind of looking up at the Bucks. They turn to him and they're like, hit the music, go. And Tony's like, go, play the music. So to actually see him on camera, part of a promo, we've seen him on camera before. I don't know that we've ever seen Tony Khan in that role in a promo.
Not like at Gorilla. It's usually like him starting a promo and then tossing it to somebody else to
or
finish
even
it.
maybe him on the ramp or on stage. We've never seen that visual before. So that is their way of doubling down on everything they did, showing that video of saying, no, this is what we're going with, the storyline, whatever we're planning. Tony is obviously going to be a big part of this. So as much as I thought it was so dumb for them to show it and how it backfired, I guess I want to give them kudos for doubling down this week and just saying, fuck it, we're going for it.
Yeah, like, it's nice that they're trying to make lemonade out of lemons. Yeah, right. But we'll see.
Yeah. I don't know that the payoff is going to be right. I mean, it's AEW. The payoff probably isn't going to be there, but it was very interesting to see. And I thought, I'm like, I don't think we've ever seen this from Tony.
Yeah. Also, that final segment with Swerve and Joe.
Oh my God, the stomp onto the security was
the smoothest thing I've ever seen.
He was floating on the shoulders.
So dope.
So fucking good. So Swerve and Joe do one of these things. We'll hear from Samoa Joe. We'll hear from Swerve. Backstage interview, not in the ring. Joe goes first. Then Swerve says, no, fuck this. I'm going out to the ring. Takes the hood or the hat off. You see the fucking blacked out, essentially black and blue eyes. He's like, I'm going to the ring. Goes to the ring. Calls Joe out. Security comes, intervenes, gets in the way. Swerve goes to the top rope and does this swerve stop on top of about 8 to 12 security guards. Perfectly lands one foot on either shoulder of security. As soon as he hits him, they literally kind of
all go down. It almost looked like he was crowd surfing down.
It was nuts.
It was
literally
the smoothest thing I've ever seen.
With like Dave Chappelle and Prince, like the aura of him just floating. He was essentially floating on the fucking shoulders of the security. And at that very moment, I'm like, he's going to win the belt Sunday. I had been thinking about it, but I'm like, I think they actually might give him the belt.
I don't think he's going to.
Okay.
Because I think they're saving it for Ospreay and Wembley.
Okay.
I think that's where the title change is going to happen.
Wow. So Swerve doesn't see the belt then.
I don't think he's. I want him to. I really like Swerve, and I want him to be world champion.
I think it would be a misstep to not give him the belt.
But I think they're going to put it on Ospreay, and I don't want Swerve to be a transitional champion.
To
I don't want him to win it here and then just lose it in Wembley.
Of way more than that.
He deserves like a year-long title.
Yeah, he's been
reign.
killing it. Swerve's been fucking amazing the last year.
I could be wrong. Maybe they will put it on him, but I think they're going to hold off for Ospreay at Wembley.
I thought the way that ended, I thought, okay, this is the way you do it.
Yeah.
Like, this is the way. But because then Joe beats the shit out of him. Right. So Joe beats the shit out of him, leaves him sitting, and I'm like, this is the perfect way to Joe essentially goes over on Dynamite, and now Swerve can go over on the pay-per-view. So it'll be interesting. I hope they give him the belt. I do.
It's what should happen. Like I said, I would like to see Swerve be champion, but I think they're going to hold off for
Also,
Ospreay.
it's AEW. So
right, exactly.
They'll find a way to fuck it up.
Yep. Possibly.
There
Although
you go.
that match is going to be incredible regardless
It's going to be
of
so
who wins.
good. So fucking good.
Your AEW update from the Kayfabe Cousins. There you
AEW
go.
Shop is now selling Prince Nana button downs as well. If you want one, you can get one at AEW Shop.
That's kind of sick.
I don't know. Popped up in my inbox today.
Montreal was a great host for Raw on Monday.
Oh.
The crowd was absolutely electric. They popped for the things they should have popped for. They weren't smarky. They weren't trying to hijack the show.
Nope.
They
didn't call it Bizarro World or Land, which they always used to do in Montreal. With Canada's Bizarro World, they cheer for the bad guys.
Oh
boo
yeah,
the good guys.
they did the right. The crowd was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Triple H got a ton of love when he was out there. The R-Truth and Miz segment was
so good.
Just R-Truth is just the best, and
Yes.
I'm so happy that they're both of them are getting their shine because they're both guys that you could put them in any spot, any role. They've done it for years and years, and they just shine.
Yep.
You definitely guys that maybe we've appreciated more in the last few years than early on in their career. But just super happy for both of them. But with that being said, Jey Uso has a match with Finn Balor. Judgment Day comes out to do their thing. Jey escapes through the crowd, and then we get the shot of the year. The shot of the year, potentially for the rest of the year, which who knows? The way the production's been going in WWE, we might top it next week.
Yeah.
Jey Uso being followed up through the crowd, out into the concessions, fans mobbing him throwing him out of the way.
That one poor fan.
That one guy that shouldn't have done that.
You could even hear him say like, "Hey," as he was like, "Get the fuck out of the way."
Get the fuck out of the way. And I loved it. I'm just get out of his way. Walks right out of the arena like, man, screw the Judgment Day. I'm out of here. I don't want to deal with these bums.
Shout out the security guard on the Jordan 5s on the way out.
There you go. Flanny spotted the sneaks.
And Uso did too. Uso
did they give him a shout out? Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I missed that part. Then on top of that, you got Sami, right? As he's, the shot is over Jay's shoulder. He walks out. Sami's staring up at the Bell Center, talking about how he came to here when he was a kid, and now he gets to go defend the Intercontinental title in that building. Is not far from where he grew up. And then the camera follows him back in as Jay leaves the Bell Center, just follows him back in. Crowd's going absolutely insane in the concessions.
That cameraman absolutely had to take out some people. There's no way he didn't plow
hell yeah.
Had to, but that being...
Especially that one dude in the, Canadians Rey Mysterio-esque mask.
At first I was like, is that an El Generico mask? At first I thought that's what it was.
Yeah.
Screw him. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
The shot and the music hitting of, looking back into the arena over Sami's shoulder, the pop, the music, the feeling, the just like cinematic production involved.
That needs to win awards. I don't know what award that is.
I don't know what it is
It's not
either.
an Oscar. It's not a Grammy.
And then
it's got to win something.
Yeah.
Grabbing the Canadian flag from a fan and walking in
was
with
that a plant?
Maybe.
It didn't. I thought that, but I'm like, it felt pretty organic. And I'm like, a lot of people would have Canadian flag. It's so funny the way he was kind of like,
yeah, it's $2 for a flag. The fan was probably like, please take this.
Please.
I'm going to be part of history.
It's also possible the fan wasn't an original plant, but there's possibly like, hey, here's a flag. Hand it to Sami when he comes in. Yeah.
Either way, regardless, it fucking worked.
I don't know. I think, let's be marks here for a second and just say that this was a random fan that handed him the flag, which I'm sure there was 1,000 people in there with Canadian flags.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's not every day they go there. Sami coming in. And then the match with Chad Gable goes pretty much how we expected, right? They weren't going to take the title off of him. And then the Gable heel turn, which again we called. We knew that was coming.
We knew it was coming.
So this is an interesting feud now going forward in how they're going to handle it. Sami winning, Gable being frustrated with himself, putting the ankle lock around the turnbuckle right in front of his wife. Went full heel mode on this. I like it though.
I love it.
I'm gonna like this feud they're gonna have the next few months.
Chad Gable is a heel.
Yeah,
in every sense of the word. He's done a great job as a face. With everything he's done with the group and everything. Thank you. It's been great, but he is a heel in every sense of the word. He's so much better when he's a heel, and I love that it happened. And I love that the way it happened, the build, the way we talked about it, we knew it was going to happen, but they kept us on our toes just enough to say, okay, how's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And I thought, obviously, in Montreal, that was the perfect time.
It's the perfect way to make him an absolute heel. The most important thing to me, though, is he now needs to be a serious heel. He needs to be Kurt Angle, wrestling machine, heel. I don't want that, thank you, shoosh, comedy. As great as he was in that, I don't want that from this heel turn.
Because wouldn't
this
feel
turn needs to be a serious, I'm a fucking Olympian heel.
Because he even became, from the comedic babyface that we talked about, to a more serious babyface, at least recently, in terms of what he was saying. You saw that change happen even before the heel turn happened.
Right. Yep. Exactly. So I think that it's going to be heading in a good direction. Now it's a matter of, is he gonna? I mean, he's got to be splitting from.
He has to drop the Alpha Academy.
He can't be with the Alpha Academy because I can't imagine them all going heel.
It won't work.
It just won't work.
Where I heard it or saw it, one of you guys or where, but someone had mentioned do the Creed brothers
come
up? Yeah, and
they
become the new
Team
Alpha
Angle.
Academy. That would be cool as fuck.
They become a modern day Team
I feel
Angle.
like a good stable elevates a heel. You know what I mean? Because he's gonna need his goons. He's gonna need support. He's not just gonna go on this as a lone wolf. So
and that works too because you get the two Creed brothers and you get Ivy Nile in that package. So you get a little bit of everything. So you can go and feud with other stables who have women in them. So and
I think all three Creed brothers and Ivy Nile could work perfectly as heels.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so good stuff. Good
so
stuff
well
all
done.
around.
So well done.
The first couple weeks after Mania have been great, and I want to wrap with this. Speaking of Mania, we still don't have a location for next year's Mania.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of chatter about it. Nick Khan has been talking more about it. We know that he had some loose lips prior to Mania talking about how, I don't really want to come back to the Northeast, but we can't wait for Philly. He doubled down on that, though. He says, do not expect a open-air stadium in the Northeast to host a Mania that early in April again. Now, that tells me a few different things. They are planning on, and he also mentioned not the same weekend as the Final Four.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
And so...
Smart.
Yeah. I think that's smart as well. I don't know how much it doesn't really affect them, but still.
It's smart now that they do 2-night Mania.
Yes.
It wasn't an issue when Mania was Sunday.
No game on
Sunday.
Now
between
that it's Saturday and you have the Final
and even
Four
now
games.
too, thinking about it, if the women's title, remember the women's title game used to be on Tuesday. It used to be the night after the men's on Monday.
Now it's on Sunday.
Now it's
It's on Sunday. So that's
But although this year was Sunday afternoon, it was before Mania.
And they purposely did it, and I'm so glad they did it at 3. I tweeted, I was like, as a fan who wanted to watch this game, I'm glad they did it at 3. But I think now you see the women's game is just growing immensely and so rapidly that
they're going to take a little bit of a hit
that's
this year,
not.
Though.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little different.
Superstars they lost,
but it's one of those things where it's like, why not avoid these things if you can?
Right.
And if you're the NCAA, because I'm thinking the same thing. Like if I'm the Final Four, I'm like, I don't want to be on the same weekend of WrestleMania.
Right.
What the fuck am I doing? More so than WrestleMania, who's just gonna get more coverage from all over the world.
Right.
But as a fan, I love that they don't need to overlap and conflict.
Yeah.
And they're not going to completely forget about the Northeast. But if you think about what stadiums in the Northeast have a dome, which none of them. I don't think any of them do.
Matt
The Northeast
doesn't,
could also work
that.
perfectly for SummerSlams.
It
we
could.
could start getting SummerSlams as opposed to Mania.
But SummerSlam is still as much of it's the 1B show. It's the distant 1B.
It's the second show.
Yeah,
but it's still a phenomenal show to get.
It is.
Is Cleveland at the Brown Stadium or
the Brown Stadium.
So they're building up to be a Mania-esque.
Baseball stadiums would be hard to do just because it'd be during the season.
Yeah, and there's no basketball team.
Right, yeah.
Well, no, I mean you have but is that arena's not big enough in terms
of
no. There's obviously there, but that wouldn't be nearly
it wasn't too
big
long
enough.
ago where it wasn't.
It wasn't. It's only been a handful of years, right?
This will be the fourth year in a row that they've done stadiums. They're not
baseball
going back.
parks. Yeah, I don't know because the last SummerSlam I went to was in Brooklyn. That was in 2015.
Right.
And
then they did LA at the Staples Center for
3 years in a row.
And then obviously COVID, they did it in the
Performance Center,
and
then 2021 was at Allegiant Stadium,
right?
And that ever since then they've been at stadiums, and they're not going back.
I think that they can handle
still sell out stadiums for SummerSlam. They're obviously going to do it, and
Yeah.
they will be able to sell out stadiums for SummerSlam.
Right. So I just think that it's going to make things interesting. I mean, Mania used to be in the middle of March, back when they were in arenas. So it's not really like you have to be stuck on that time frame.
Right.
I think people that go to WrestleMania and watch WrestleMania will go regardless of when it is.
A week or two
later
will
in
make
the
a
year.
difference.
If you're gonna do it in domes or in warmer areas, you can go back to the beginning of March or middle of March if you wanted to.
Yeah, I don't think that they will do that because you also want to leave time after the Rumble because the Rumble is also a big marquee event, and I think that
what they should do is drop that in between pay-per-view. Like
No,
it should just go
I like
Rumble
it
to Mania.
I like it later in April. I think later in April is great because it's kind of like, yes, you have you have MLB regular season early, nobody really cares.
Right.
You have NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, but at the end of the day, those don't. It's still early enough in those playoff runs. It's not like a complete ratings, suck where like everybody's gonna go watch. Like if it was the NBA Finals, it's one thing,
right?
But you don't want to alienate the Northeast. That's where the majority of your fan base
where the
began.
business started.
So they want to get back to MetLife. I'm sure they love Philly. They want to go back to Philly. Wants them back. Philly's like, hey, this was great for our economy. They talked about how much money it generated. It taught them a lot because Philly in 2026 is going to be hosting some World Cup matches.
Yep. Right.
They're going to be hosting. There was something else big that they were hosting that year. So this actually trained the city of Philadelphia on how to handle a large influx of people from all over the world. They're not going to alienate it. I think what you're going to end up seeing is, I think next year you're going to see Vegas.
I think
Vegas is going to be Minnesota.
I think I think Minnesota fucked themselves.
They might have, but also, it's kind of. I just don't know if they want to do back-to-back years with. I know it's in a dome, but
so much of WrestleMania weekend is being outside, is moving around, is mingling, is meeting people. Who the fuck's gonna want to do that in Minnesota?
Exactly.
Right, but Minnesota has a deep wrestling history.
Absolutely.
So like that's a good thing for it. But allegedly they were gonna get it years ago, but the city of Minneapolis kind of spoiled that by basically saying like, oh, we're getting WrestleMania before it got announced, and WWE was like, all right, well, fuck you, you're not getting it.
That is the one thing you can never do.
And they kind of did the same thing this year. They're like, oh, we can't make the announcement yet, but next year we're going to have some really big event coming. It's as big as the Super Bowl.
And even hotels blocking off weekends and stuff. So maybe, I don't know. It could still very well end up there, but it won't be the same weekend.
No.
It'll be later.
Probably not. And I think it is going to be Vegas. I think Minnesota fucked themselves and they're like, all right, well, we're going to Vegas now.
I would love Vegas, man. Please do
All I
Vegas.
know is we're definitely not getting that Wembley Mania that John Cena teased, because Nick Khan also said in an interview that Mania, Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and Royal Rumble, he wants to keep in North America.
Okay.
He wants to keep them in the United States or Canada.
That makes sense. Those are like,
that does.
That'd be like,
Although a Mania in Wembley would have been dope.
Would be
it would have been
fire.
sick.
Would be fire.
It would have been sick, but ultimately, because you'd have the majority of that crowd being UK and the Brits, but you're still getting international people. You have people from all over the world.
Because he did also say the rest of them we're going to try to make almost all of those international PLEs.
Yeah,
and it scares the shit out of me because I think if they were to take Mania to Wembley, and now opens up the door, not that they need Wembley to open this door, to be in Saudi Arabia for the next Mania.
Yeah, that I definitely don't want.
I don't ever want that.
I agree. I definitely don't want that.
I don't want that.
But a 1 p.m. Mania? Come on. Sign me the fuck up for that.
Yeah, that would be pretty sick.
That's what I'm looking forward to with some of these PLEs coming up. Is like you mentioned, is the mid-afternoon start.
That's why I'm already super pumped for All In. Yeah, that's going to be a big show, and it's going to start at like 1 p.m.
Yeah, no,
I'm going to be all about it.
It's like even when the UFCs are in like Dubai. It's
right,
nice to have like a early,
I know.
Early
I tried to stay up for last week. I couldn't do it.
Oh, I'm glad I did.
I couldn't do it,
Good God. I mean,
I couldn't.
Thankfully, the main event was quick. The main event was quick too, but the Max Holloway.
But how many more matches was there after Max and Gaethje?
2.
Okay, yes, I would have never made it
because it was the women's match and then it was the main event, and that thankfully that one was quick. I did kind of fall asleep during the third or fourth round of the women's match because I was just like, it's hard to stay up for these long.
And that's
events,
the thing,
man.
and it's so. Not disrespectful, but it's so unfortunate for the headliners and for the main eventers in any of these sports that come on so late because you suck the life out of that room.
Yeah.
It's not fair to them that when they come on, you're getting a half-ass crowd.
Right.
Yeah. That crowd was pretty lit though for UFC 300.
Oh yeah.
They were pretty lit, and the Max Holloway knockout of
that was
that
insane.
fucking reinvigorated that
the
crowd.
craziest.
So good.
That was probably the coolest thing I've ever
1
seen. 1
second left.
Yeah.
Like it's at least up there. Maybe it's recency bias, but like.
I mean,
pointing to the middle of the octagon and then both of them just going full on rock and sock
kudos
robots.
to Gaethje for saying fuck it. I'm gonna
and
throw.
He had nothing to win.
I'm gonna throw.
He knew he was gonna lose that fight.
Exactly.
Yeah, nothing to lose. I'm sorry. Yeah. So except getting knocked out very embarrassingly, that was not a good look.
No,
they're just warriors.
That's
man.
it. That's what they signed up for. Kudos to them.
It was literally the MMA version of a buzzer beater.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like literally 1 second.
So good.
And I'm glad there wasn't any fucked up shit where it was like, no, the clock actually ran out. I didn't wave my hand. Like, no, like
it wouldn't have
fucking
mattered.
knocked him out.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it was was more even about the visual. Even if
Yes.
they
Right.
said it was.
The still images of Gaethje
Yeah,
just being
Saved
bleeding
by
out
the
Holloway
Bell.
over him was, yeah.
crazy stuff, man. But yeah, no, don't
That's
know.
the TK. This is the TKO sponsor.
Yeah, the
Right,
TKO.
part of the show.
Yeah, that was a TKO.
Yeah,
Actually, that was just a
that was just
a
straight.
KO.
That was a
KO, yeah.
So it's been a fun week, man. It's been, again, I love that it's not really slowing down post Mania.
No.
There's a lot of things going on, and we're just going to continue to ramp this bitch up. I'm excited for a backlash in Francois.
Yeah.
Same.
Yep.
I just am so glad I don't have to hear them pronounce Montreal with the French accent again. 'Cause,
Yeah.
bruh.
It's a bit much.
But how good was it though? I know Cody did it. Did Triple H do it? Where they
Speak French.
threw the French
yeah,
in there?
Yeah, Miz did it
Miz.
as well,
Yeah.
which obviously
Which
Maurice.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's such a cheap pop.
Would've loved to see Maurice.
But I love it. I know.
Oh, yeah.
I know. I mean,
Miz.
come on.
Come on, bruh.
Jesus.
Well,
we don't
she's
have
like
to
just
much.
getting over some health stuff.
Oh.
True. Well, I still would have liked to see.
We just
it.
love
I
Maurice.
get it.
We just
I
love,
get it.
love Maurice.
I would have
Maurice.
loved to see it as well, but I understand.
Yeah,
Maybe they
no.
could have sent her mom in the place, and
That's
she
also
could
true.
have did a whole promo. And
Yeah.
Shout out to Maurice's mom. And also another highlight before we leave from Raw. I love McAfee calling it. He just yeeted everywhere,
Yes.
and
Yep.
it's a Montreal yeet job.
Yes.
Yep.
That's.
Those were top
And then
stuff.
it's so good because Cole's
That was
like, "All right,
great.
be careful, McAfee. Don't
He said,
yeet
"Don't
on
yeet
yourself."
on me."
Right,
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Even I saw, and I've loved that the WWE's been doing this too, is showing some of those close-ups from the table.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
Cole and McAfee, like the one
The
they
one
showed.
they showed of Sheamus.
Yes,
That was
so fucking good.
Where
Yeah.
Spilled Pat's drink.
So good. The one, and then the one they had the other day was what did Pat say? Oh, he's like, he's Dom's a dude wipe after you wipe.
Oh, yes.
And they had the close
Oh,
up
yeah,
of
yeah.
Cole.
Lost it.
And Cole's, and he's like, "What? I'm an order." And you could just see Cole losing it, and it was perfect because obviously Heyman used order. It was so fucking good. Those
Michael
camera angles
Cole.
are good. I love that they've completely taken the reins off Cole and just let him do whatever the fuck he
Yeah.
wants. He's so good. He's so perfect. The two of them are so good. You can see McAfee literally has his aura about him that changes Michael Cole and turns
Yeah.
him into like this
Definitely.
little kid. He's so silly and fun, and it's just good. We love
And
it.
also not having Vince in their ear.
Yeah,
Right.
You know,
yep,
has made
exactly.
a massive difference.
Yep.
So that's got to help all of them. And Michael
Yeah.
Cole has been elevated, which is
So
crazy to
good.
say because he's,
I know.
maybe
Yeah.
the
I know.
GOAT. You know, if we really want to,
Yeah,
put,
in terms of just
shout out to JR
what
and
he's
Bobby the
done.
Brain and Gorilla Monsoon. But like as far as the longevity Michael Cole has
Yeah.
had and the really shitty era he had to go
Oh,
through, everybody
yeah.
hated him, which wasn't his fault. You get to see him in his true form
Mm-hmm.
again, like he was during the late '90s, early 2000s,
And-
he's been great.
To be fair to Michael Cole, JR and Gorilla also had good eras to commentate.
oh,
Exactly.
through.
Well, that's
Where
what I'm trying to
Michael
make.
Cole
Yeah.
has- But not even just like people
100%.
hating him. Like he also had to commentate
Yeah,
through
some
shitty
shit.
ass
Some
era.
shit.
And he had to try to make that sound and look
Yep.
good.
He loves Corey Graves. He's
Yeah.
called him his heir apparent already. He
Yeah.
loves doing the show. He loves doing Raw with Pat, and it's been awesome. So
Yeah, it's been good.
again,
Especially the one thing too is just like them calling them by their real names.
Yes.
Yeah.
And calling them by the promotions they used to.
Yes.
Like, thank you, because we know fucking better. So you
Right.
trying to go around that just
Stupid.
makes us mad at you. So I'm glad that they're not leaning into that. And there's at least there doesn't seem to be any repercussions for doing that.
Right.
love it. Been a good week, fellas. We're back. Flanabam
Sure.
made it through a whole podcast without taking a
Yes.
real bump
That's
on
it.
the
No
shelf.
blood. No blood.
The shelf he's no selling the shelf.
I'm
which is,
learning.
He's gone into business for himself.
No,
fi-
no, I would sell.
I'm
You
gonna,
would see it.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
somehow find
You'd
a
also
way. I'm not,
hear it.
I'm not good at this because I've never had to do it. I don't know where I'm gonna put the razor blade, but I'm gonna find a way to when you actually do
When
that,
actually
somehow
the blade-
cut
Oh, you're gonna blade.
so that you can just blood.
Oh
we get
Jesus!
blood.
We're-
I like
we
it.
got color on the Everything Is Pro Wrestling podcast.
It'll be our Ric Flair episode.
Yeah, you know,
And-
crimson mask, crimson cap.
Right.
Let's hope that this video works this week. We'll not. If not, then you'll just, of course, hear us anywhere you get your podcast. Continue to share, guys. The interactions have been great. Share with your friends, your wrestling friends, people you know are starting to get into it. You know, we like to have a little bit of fun, and we got some special guests lined up the next couple of weeks as well. So we'll be talking to some fun people out there, fellas. Thank you very much. See you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.